Welcome to this new episode of Seeds of Tomorrow, a CPVO podcast. Today, we have the pleasure to have with us Mr. François Laurence, research engineer at INRAE and coordinator of the INVITE project. Good morning, François.
Morning.
And we have with us as well Cécile Collonnier, technical expert in charge of research and innovation at the Community Plant Variety Office. Good morning, Cécile.
Hi, Sara.
So today the episode will focus on research and innovation, as you can imagine. And we would like to start this episode by asking our guest, Cécile, how has the CPVO supported cutting-edge research and development in plant breeding?
Thank you, Sara. That's a big question, but it's also a provocative question because CPVO is not directly in charge of plant breeding, of course. CPVO deliver intellectual property rights for varieties that are created by plant breeders. So the titles that we use to base our decisions to grant titles is the result of DUS testing, which is the assessment of distinctness, uniformity, and stability of the varieties. So in that sense, we support innovation in plant breeding, but the research efforts that we deploy within the network of our interested examination offices is focused on the improvement of DUS testing. It's really our core business technically. So how do we do that? We have, as an agency, we have an R&D strategy that has to be validated by our administrative council. And so in this strategy, we defined specific goals for 5 years. And all these goals, they aim at optimizing the quality and reducing the costs of DUS testing, and also facilitating the enforcement of plant breeders' rights. By providing tools, molecular markers, things like that. So to allow us to progress, we have different means, and the main one is that every year we have an R&D call. So our examination offices can gather together and involve research institutes, breeding companies, breeders associations, 2-month projects, and then they can submit them in this R&D call, very specifically addressed to DUS testing. And we have a board, it's the advisory group inside the institute that will advise the president about the quality and the legitimacy of funding this project. So we did a lot in the last 12 years. We managed to finance 35 R&D projects. These projects have various formats. They can last 1 to 5 years. Their budget is also pretty, so it can range from 50,000 to 400,000 max. And the CPVO can decide to co-fund, to give a subvention from 50 to 100% sometimes of the total costs. So all these projects, they cover the species from all sectors. You can apply for anything. So the vegetable, agricultural, ornamental, or fruit sectors. And all of them served 3 main purposes that fit into our R&D strategy. So the first one was so it corresponds to one of our biggest mission, that is the harmonization of the work between our examination offices. So first purpose, improvement and harmonization of the methodologies and procedures that we use when we do the DUS testing. We apply technical protocols validated by the Administrative Council of CPVO, and we try to make sure that everybody works the same way, understands
the same standards.
Exactly. Okay. Follows the same controls. So, for example, if I want to illustrate, we had a series of projects that were very successful and very impactful for our community of stakeholders that were called HARMORES. So it was harmonization of resistant tests. And these projects, they allowed to really harmonize the protocols that are used to test disease resistances. And we also supported the organization of a network of actors that are in charge of maintaining validated reference material. So that includes the pathogen isolates and the control seeds. So that was to illustrate the first big purpose, that is harmonization and improvement of the protocol. And the second purpose was the integration of molecular techniques in the US testing. That was the big chunk of work, big objectives, that to try to help with what we call the management of variety collections and for variety identification. So also by management, we mean how to structure the collections and identify groups of varieties, and then help the US experts select the varieties that they will compare to the candidate varieties, because we have to establish distinctness.
It's a pre-field work that all examination offices have to do within their procedures. So it helps them to structure then the on-the-field activity.
Exactly, yeah. It's really help them even for the design of the trials, everything. So a few examples for that. So we had projects that just validated marker sets, molecular marker sets in many species. So these markers, the partners of the project had to demonstrate to get a proof of concept, and then to test the implementation of this tool in the framework of UPOV models, because we apply this molecular or we use this molecular data within the framework of the UPOV models that were approved at the UPOV level. So that's for the assessment of traits, specific traits, where you have a direct correlation between the presence of a marker and the expression of the trait, or for the selection of the reference varieties, because there are already several models validated.
So all this work doesn't only stay at CPVO and European level, it's a work that can benefit the UPOV system in general.
Exactly.
Many other countries in developing their own standards and their own...
Yes, because so first to the UPOV members, of course, because we share our findings in the different UPOV meetings, but also at the world level, because some of the markers that were validated for the identification internationally of varieties, internationally meaning inside Europe, but also sometimes including other sides of the world. Like we have projects including Asian partners. So in that case, where we have markers that could be used for certification, we can add them to the list of reference methods of the OECD, for example. So then I was in the different purposes. So I had 3. So the third one was to set up online databases to share, to help examination offices and to exchange information and to share their morphological descriptions and the molecular data that they could get from the marker sets that were validated in the other projects. And so we had several ones already created with diverse formats and rules. And as we now have a little understanding of the different possible scenarios of collaborations, we have set up a work group to try to draft some guidance, so CPVO guidance on the setup of online shared databases. And so that all our examination offices are very happy about that, because there's a lot of issues to solve when you try to create a consortium like that, where you have to maintain the database, curate all the data, find financial means to maintain it on the long term. So there's all kinds of questions that we're trying to address. But for now, we have already databases that are functioning very well on potato. On durum wheat also, they have very different ways of rules of functioning. And we will soon have one on rapeseeds and tomato also. So that's for the purposes. I mean, globally, the what's common between all this project is connected to the very particular aim of our R&D activities, that is to go to the validation and the implementation of tools. So that we want to invest at the later stage of the development of new tools, We will not invest in upstream research. We rely for that on interactions with the scientists from universities or research institutes. So these collaborations are really essential for us. We need to monitor what's going on. We need to identify what kind of new markers, algorithms, softwares, machines. I mean, all kinds of these things that are developed by experts, but are more at the fundamental level. We are here to try to bring that down to an application by our examination offices. But that does not mean that we, CPVO, we cannot participate to larger and more fundamental research projects. So, for example, we can...
It all depends on the relevance for
exactly.
our core business.
Of course, it has to stay in the scope of action of CPVO, because we have limited means also, and we have to focus on what's important for us. But we can be involved in different types of projects, including the big European projects from the Horizon programs, for example, that are financed by the European Commission. So we can be a member of advisory boards, scientific advisory boards. For example, we are right now in a project on grapevine that is grape breed for IPM, I think, and another project that is called Bellis that is focusing on legumes. And it's extremely interesting to interact with all this community of scientists and give the feedback of some other stakeholders that are a little lower in the chain. But so we also had the opportunity to participate as a partner in other European projects. So that will not be the case in the future because of the new rules regarding the involvement of European agencies in this type of R&D project. But so we had the opportunity, for example, to participate to the INVITE project, who addressed different challenges of plant variety testing for varieties that were supposed to be adapted to stricter agroclimatic conditions and more sustainable crop management practices. So it was an extremely interesting project, extremely rich, large consortium. And I think I'm going to give the floor to François because he's here to share what happened during this 5 very interesting years.
Thank you very much, Cécile. And indeed, we have the pleasure of having with us the coordinator of the INVITE project. So we are curious to understand what role did the project play in addressing challenges, as Cécile mentioned, like sustainability, and what was the main purpose of the INVITE project and how it fit in the strategy that Cécile described. François.
I guess Cécile already said a lot, and actually it fits exactly what the project was really fitting with what she said. And actually CPVO and Cécile in particular have been very involved in the project. So I'm a little bit sad to know that the new policy is not to be included as a full partner, but I understand. I fully understand. But anyway, your involvement in the project has been very, very helpful. So in few words, INVITE is so as Cécile said, as a very broad consortium. So we were close to 30 different partners, and the particularity of this project is to merge, to gather people from the research, really scientists, breeders, technical institutes, examination offices, post-registration offices, and different kind of thing, and the CPVO. So the really aim of the project from the beginning, when we built up the project with CPVO and the other partners, was really to make the link between the research and the application for the variety testing. So it has been not so easy for the management because we were each of the different group of partners were from very different horizons. When you are working in the lab and the research, you are quite far from the field. So one challenge for the coordinator has been to make these people working together. And I guess that after 5 years, so the project ended last December. So at the end of the project, I guess we succeeded to get this link. Then, as Cécile said, the idea, the rough idea of the project was built structure in different parts, different pillars. One pillar on research, one pillar on application, and one pillar on dissemination and transfer. So to be fast. So we started to and following exactly on what Cécile said. We had a WA package on genotyping, for example, and so we address the different points, the different UPOV case studies, the 1 and 2. So developing markers for dedicated trace and quite a lot on the resistance to pest and disease, so linked to the sustainability. We also addressing the genotyping WA package, all the aspects of management of the reference collection, which is a big issue on some crops and which is very expensive. So we wrote some, I guess, some solutions, or at least some way to improve that. On top of what Cécile said, we very linked to the US aspect, we really involve a lot on phenotyping tools, either on looking both on the sensor part, the captors, what kind of captors, something like that, on the vector, but also on all the analysis behind, so all the deep learning aspects. So in the project, we had scientists who were really involved in all these aspects to end up with a real very practical and useful tools for the examination offices. And actually, it's what happened. So we did. So just I forgot to say that INRAE, another challenge of INRAE is that we worked on 10 different crops, from agricultural crops up to fruits and vegetables. So it was also not so easy to make these people working together. But the added value of that is that you can learn from one crop to the other. For example, my specialty is fruit breeding. So fruit, apple is very far from what maize and wheat, for example, are doing. But we learned a lot from the experience of wheat and maize, for example, for practical and day-to-day activity.
And
so
this speaks a lot as well in terms of harmonization, how hard it is to find something that can be commonalities between crops, among crops. And I know that I'm not a technical expert, I'm a lawyer, but it's fascinating to see how science can bridge together different areas and different realities.
Exactly. So harmonization has been one of our keywords in the project. I can't tell you that we succeeded to harmonize everything, so no, but we make some progress on some part of the project. Another part, which is not really linked to the US, but which has been very important, is to work on the modeling, try to predict the value of a variety, but it's a little bit on the US, outside of the US, more on the VCU part. And so this was the scientific part, and then all this, all the output of this, or a lot of the output of this more research part have been translated to the day-to-day life of the examination offices. And so we have a lot of, I don't have in mind, but quite many tools which have been tested. Some even have been really integrated in the real life of the variety testing. And speaking of, if you ask me about sustainability, so for sure we worked on all the evaluation, the markers, or even the phenotyping tools to assess for different kind of pest and disease on all the crops on the project, to be short. We also try, so not at the same level at the pest and disease, but also to address some abiotic stress linked to the climate change. For example, we had a few tasks linked with water use efficiencies on different crops. We use also on the energy saving on the tomato, for example, in greenhouse. Just to show you the wide spectrum of the project.
It is really impressive, and thank you very much, François. And I want to take the opportunity to bridge the two aspects of research and science with protection. We had a study some years ago conducted with the European Union Intellectual Property Office that specifically addressed what was the impact of the community plant variety rights system on the economy and on the environment. So we had some data that showed how the system supported, for instance, some challenges posed by climate change. You mentioned it earlier. It's a topic nowadays that we cannot avoid to talk about and to address, and how the system addressed these challenges and how the results of the protection. What were the savings in terms of use of land, of use of water? Cécile, can you tell us a little bit about the result, the key aspects?
Yeah. So the study was conducted by the IPO, so covered really the whole time of existence of the agency. And so during this different, just 3 decades now, things have evolved. We constantly adapt our technical protocols to try to provide the better protection possible and assess the varieties with new features and specific requirements in terms of distinctness and uniformity. So the idea was to try to see if all these efforts led to something useful also, outside the system itself, if it had an impact on agriculture and on the environment. And so this study really tried to assess how the system could help meet the Commission's Green Deal objectives. So if all the programs that could be connected, like the climate neutral Europe, the ecosystem and biodiversity, the farm to fork strategy that has the objective to ensure food security through seed security. So with this vision, with this point of view, they treated all the possible data they could find, and they managed to identify in the progress that is the part of the progress that is due to plant breeding, the part that can be associated to the plant variety rights system of the European Union. And so this proportion it was a little tough to evaluate, but they managed to find ways to really extract very interesting information. And so it appears that if we didn't have our plant variety rights system, crop production in the EU would be lower. Depending on the sector, it varies from a few percent to 15%. And so without this added production that can be really attributed to the protection system, we would have, inside the EU, a position in terms of trade that would be a little weakened. And for sure, consumers would face higher food prices. And by extension, the whole system there would be an impact on the employment and the level of wages of workers that are involved in crop production. So globally, all that, the system contributes to the sustainability from an economical point of view. It also appears that, and that was a little surprising to see that, but it was in our data. We had never really taken the time to go back to, all this period from the start of the agency, but we realized that we really are, the system is really beneficial to small breeding companies because they represent more than 90% of the applicants that we have for plant variety rights. And currently, they hold more than 60% of all the titles in force. So all that shows that the system is very useful economically and supports all types of actors. Regarding environmental objectives, so then the system also appeared to have some benefits. through the protection, of course, of more performant and adapted varieties. And that was reflected through several things that you mentioned, Sarah. For example, they managed to identify that the protection system contributed to a decrease of the annual greenhouse gas emissions from agriculture, really by, millions of tons, 62 millions of tons per year. It also translated into a decrease of the water use in agriculture. There's also a beneficial effect by preventing the conversion of millions of hectares of grassland into farmland. They estimated this prevention, the amount of hectares to the size of Ireland. So really, we contributed to preserve biodiversity by preserving the grassland. So all these benefits make the plant variety rights system a very important system, and for now and for the future, because. So we're going to have to solve all the challenges of agriculture that are coming, including reaching the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And so this will require to continue to innovate in plant breeding, and the innovations will continue to need the protection by the plant variety rights systems of the CPVO. So I think this study really demonstrates the benefits of a system that people may not associate to sustainability and biodiversity, but it really has an impact. Without it, we wouldn't reach these goals as easily.
You touched a very important point that the work the CPVO does is very much linked with science and research, and is very much linked with protecting this innovation, and try to not only find through our project a best way to operate the system and to give support to the examination offices, but also ultimately to the breeders and to the fact that they have to continue innovating. And their innovation challenges us as well to find always new ways of testing, new ways of addressing their needs. So, and it's important that protection goes side by side with this. So, sorry for this. Please, François, of course.
I think it's important. So it's important to, as you said, to keep this link between the research, the breeding, and the variety testing. It's what we started with Invite. We should carry on something like that to make people, and perhaps not always working together, but at least knowing together. And it's on one sense and the other sense, on one way and the other way. It's, I guess, important for protection people to know what happened in research. So top-down approaches, but the bottom-up approach also. In the Invite project, it was interesting for the scientists to know what is the reality of the breeding, what is the reality of the protection, and how research can address this topic, and see that the main topic right now on research are linked to to replace the chemicals to address new pest and disease, to address the climate change impacts and things like that. And it's good to know that at least the research, the output of the research can help all the agricultural chain from the breeder, the farmers, and the breeders, the protection, and the farmers. So I think it's something always good to have this kind of consortium working together and understanding together.
Indeed, from a non-technical perspective, I always see the new challenges when you hear in the news, we need to reduce the use of chemicals. Yes, but we need varieties that can support the reduction of the use of chemicals. Yeah. So seeing how all the sectors are intertwined, it's really fascinating. And you spoke about the future and what is actual now, François, and I would like to ask both of you and to close this episode with a view to the future. And what is in your mind? What do you think that research in the plant domain will address in the near future? What will be the challenges? Some you already mentioned, but do you see something else coming soon?
For sure, as I said before, climate change is something which is we try to address, which is not so easy, because there are so many traits behind that it's quite complex to address it. The chemical to try to get more resistant and durable, sustainable, resistant in the varieties, for sure, it's something common to all crops. On top of that, I think there are big thinking on the new methodologies or new tools for breeders, and also with the consequence of the protection. We didn't address too much the NGTs and GMOs and things like that in the project, but I can tell you that something that is with the new, perhaps the new EU regulation on the NGTs is something which is really everywhere. We are working on that. I was speaking about the phenotyping tools also, which really could. And we know that everywhere, from the science up to the farmers, the tools we develop for the science will be helpful for the farmers. So there's something I think on top of the big challenges, climate change and other kind of thing, how the tools can help for the breeding and the protection, I think is something very important for the future. Actually what we are doing. Not only the tools, but also the methodology. We did quite a lot on when you spoke just before on the climate change, and we did a lot on what we call envirotyping in the frame of the project, which just take into account the environment and see try to characterize the environment to have a better experimental design. I think it's something also we have to take into account.
Thank you very much, François. And Cécile, what do you see in the future for research more in the US testing field?
So first of all, we're going to have a new R&D strategy that will allow us to really open and refocus on new objectives. It should be deployed in 2026, and we will take into account the evolution of the technologies, of the breeding objectives, all our US challenges also. Like François said, I mean, we need to be ready to face the arrival of edited varieties, have the capacity to assess the new traits, to cope maybe with some acceleration in the breeding processes. So to try to limit the duration of the US testing, we have all kinds of big strategic discussions nowadays to try to find solutions, propose solutions to our stakeholders. In terms of objectives, we'll continue to harmonize the practices of our examination offices and involved in molecular tools and shared databases. The novelty will be that we're going to explore maybe new molecular approaches and try to see if we can use molecular networks or genomic prediction to be more efficient in the assessment of distinctness, uniformity, and so try to see if we can elaborate new scenarios using these approaches. And so as François said, we're going to have a big focus on phenotyping tools, but that's supported by artificial intelligence, deep learning. So we'll really have different activities to support the exploration of AI-driven tools, both for phenotyping and data analysis, actually, because it can be useful for many other applications. And for that, we intend to promote different types of activities. We're going to set up dedicated work groups. We're going to also organize specific workshops and pilot studies based on collaboration with scientists and academics to support our exploration, but all with applied objectives, of course. And of course, we're going to continue to co-finance R&D projects for our examination offices. So many topics and many ways to progress. So a lot of work and very exciting times in prospect.
Thank you very much, Cécile. François, anything to add?
Yeah, I fully agree with, and happy to know that we have the same goal for the future. A very important point I learned from Invite, and I already said a little bit, but is not only to develop new techniques or new technologies, but it's really to see to check how to transfer this technology in the field, in the examination offices. Sometimes, so we develop a lot of things. And if it has to be very well integrated by the people from the field. So I spoke before the top-down and bottom-up approach. Don't forget the bottom-up. Don't forget to include those people. So I like the idea of workshop. I think it's a good way to do it. But I think it's not only that. It should be also field meetings with scientists in the field, so the people and we can see what can be the impact and the practical impact for them, not only on technical aspect but also social aspect. If you use drone, for example, you change completely the way you are working. So it's important to make them really involved in the new the application of new tools and methods. And we saw in the Invite project different kind of examination offices, some which were quite open to that, some which were more reluctant. And so it's important. And at the end of the project, I guess those who were reluctant, there were less people reluctant because we took the time to discuss. We didn't finish, but at least we went this way. So the transfer is something very important.
Yeah, thank you, François. It's a very good message to give at the end of this little exchange, because it's essential. I mean, for us, it's what we try to do when we participate to advisory boards. It's to remind them that they have to include different stakeholders all along the chain. And so we want to take the opportunity now to just invite people that would want us to interact with them, to not hesitate. We will be always very happy to contribute.
So thank you very much to both of you for participating to this episode, and I hope that our public will take the opportunity to reflect on many aspects, and I hope this sparkles a light in the head of further researchers and in the scientific world, and as well a little sparkle in the legal world of interest and forward-looking for our projects. Thank you very much for being with us, and see you on the next episode.
Thank you.
Thank you.